What's up, travelers? It's Liz from Means to Travel, and I'm standing here in Atlanta, Georgia today. I'm in the Morningside neighborhood. I've been staying at my friend's here all weekend, and we've been exploring the town and having so much fun. And I wanted to share with you guys today my 4 tips for the must-dos when you visit Atlanta, Georgia. So let's just jump right in. The first thing to do when you visit Atlanta is to definitely make sure to try the food. There's so much food to choose from here. It's not just Southern cuisine, even though this is kind of considered the capital of the United States South. There's cuisine from all over the world, probably because the Atlanta airport is the busiest airport in the entire world. That's just my hunch. But anyway, the food scene is incredible here. So one of the cool things that you could do if you visit is to go on a food tour. So there's different food tours you can choose from. You can select what interests you the most by going online and looking up all the different ones that are very popular for your trip. There's also different markets you can go to. So one of my favorite things that we did over the weekend was go to Krog Street Market and Ponce City Market. So these are indoor markets that have a ton of different, they're not just like kiosks or stands or anything like that. They are actually like built-in food court, but elevated food court. Some are just official restaurants, all lined up in a row in the same location. It is so cool. You can go with your friends, you can go with a big group, you can go by yourself and figure out what food sounds the best, try different things from different types of cuisines, and just make an activity of it. So highly recommend either doing like a food tour or going to one of those markets. There are also neighborhoods all throughout the city of Atlanta that have great restaurant scenes. Some of the ones that my friends wanted to call out, there's Inman Park, there's New West Side, and there's also a bunch of restaurants near Buford Highway that are international, they say. So I haven't been to those yet, but they were raving about those areas. So be sure, based on where you're staying, to look up, see if any of those are close to your hotel or your accommodation, and what restaurants are top rated in those places, because I'm pretty sure you won't go wrong. The restaurant options in this city are awesome. The last thing I want to mention about food that you might want to consider is that there are a ton of rooftop bars that you can choose from if the weather's really nice, and those can be really fun for maybe getting after dinner drinks, seeing views of the city, skyline, that sort of thing. So look up if there's any that are close to your accommodation too. That would be really cool as a kind of like bonus treat. The second must-do that I want to share with you guys when you visit Atlanta is to absolutely visit the local museums and attractions. So my favorite one that we have done so far is the National Museum of Civil and Human Rights. It blew me away. It was so important, I feel, for people who visit the city to go to, because you learn so much about the civil rights movement in the United States. And on top of that, they have a whole extra section that just explains human rights. It's a heavy museum, so maybe not the best one to go with kids or something like that. There's a ton of other kid-friendly attractions that you can consider too for that. But if you're visiting Atlanta, I highly recommend that particular museum. It was just the best museum I've been to in ages. Super interactive, lots of like movies to see and articles to read, and like just different activities that you can kind of almost put yourself in the place of the civil rights protesters. It was just awesome. And as I mentioned, if you're visiting Atlanta with kids, really close by to that museum are 2 that are extremely popular as well. There's the aquarium, the Georgia Aquarium, and also the Coke Museum. And so that's because Coca-Cola is headquartered here. You can actually go to that museum and try different Coca-Cola flavors from all over the world. Very cool. So certainly consider that for adults and kids visiting Atlanta alike. On top of visiting the Civil Rights Museum that I mentioned before, there's a ton of Martin Luther King history in the city as well. And so there's a Martin Luther King Center and historic museum that you can visit that is super, super great as well. Certainly if you're interested in learning more about him and his mission and his life, go there. A few other museums to consider. I mean, there's so many here in this wonderful city. There's the Atlanta History Museum, there's the High Museum of Art, there's the College Football Hall of Fame. There's so many great options to choose from, especially if it's maybe a rainy day and you don't necessarily have the ability to be outside. You have so many great museum options to choose from. If I've missed any that you really like that you visit Atlanta and go see, add them in the comments too, so that way we can all learn from each other about which ones are our favorites. Finally, on top of going to museums, because there's so many great ones, a lot of tourists love to visit and go to a sports game as an activity. So the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta United games are extremely popular for locals and tourists alike, and a ton of fun. So if you're visiting and you are interested in sports, that's definitely a good option. By the way, if you're liking this video so far, don't forget to press the thumbs up button down below and the red subscribe button. It really helps out my channel more than you know and supports free travel content on YouTube. So thanks in advance for that. The third must-do that I'm going to mention when you're visiting Atlanta is to make sure to get outside. The weather here most times of year is very mild climate, at least compared to where I'm from in the northern US. And I highly recommend getting outside, even if it's kind of hot and sweaty, because there's so many options, even in the summertime, to enjoy this beautiful city. If you're here on the weekends especially, but even during the week, look up the festival schedules, because there's so many great festivals that you can see and attend when you're here. When we were walking around the city this weekend, there was like a soul, R&B, blues festival going on, and you could hear it from different parts in the city. It was so cool to see the amount of people gathered and listening to live music and trying the different food carts and just enjoying being outside in the Atlanta springtime. Some other activities that you might want to consider in order to get outside and see Atlanta is, first of all, Piedmont Park. So you can walk around Piedmont Park, explore the beautiful park itself, and really have a day of it. Make a picnic, that sort of thing. The other one that I wanted to mention that we did yesterday is walk along the Beltline. So the Beltline is pretty much circled almost all the way around the city of Atlanta. It's a former elevated train path that they've converted into a park, similar to the High Line in New York City or the 606 Trail in Chicago. And there's like restaurants and brew pubs and different places that you can stop. There's street art all along the Beltline. You're gonna love it. It's just the pretty cool experience, especially on a nice day. Another great idea for getting outside is to go visit the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. So we went there this weekend too. It was so beautiful. We got to see orchids, we got to see tulips. There's little views of the downtown skyscrapers from there too. It is a wonderfully done outdoor botanic museum, and highly recommend that if you are interested in flowers and like to see those things when you're traveling, that's a great option. Slightly further afield, you might be interested in hiking, and there's a lot of great hiking trails kind of like in and around the Atlanta area. There's the Arabia Mountains, there's the Kennesaw Mountain, and there's just so many great hiking trails that you can do just within like a 30-minute to 1-hour drive from here. My last tip for how to spend your outdoor adventures: if you're here in the warmer months, there's something that is a really fun activity for all local Atlantans and tourists alike, and that is called shooting the hooch. So that is when you rent inner tubes and you can float along the Chattahoochee River with the help of some like local companies, and you can bring a beer and basically like lounge in your inner tube as you're floating down the river in order to kind of like cool off and have a good time even in that hot summer humidity. My fourth and final must-do if you are visiting Atlanta is, if you have time, please take a day trip. There's so many phenomenal day trips that you can make that are within like an hour to 2-hour drive from Atlanta. Some of the top ones include Helen, Georgia, which is this like cute town that has a very deep German heritage, and so a lot of the buildings look Germanic. They serve German food at a lot of the restaurants, and it's basically like going to a mini Germany, so highly recommend that one. There's also Blue Ridge, which is a great town, very close of course to the Blue Ridge Mountains, surprise surprise, and it is a mountain town and has a scenic Blue Ridge Railway that you can pick up the train in Blue Ridge and take it a little ways, and it's kind of like this old school train, and you get to kind of live that mountaineer train life. Also in Blue Ridge, if you didn't want to ride the train, you can also do a ton of hiking trails around the area, so it's really cool to visit regardless of if you want to go hiking or if you're a train enthusiast. The next one I'm going to recommend that I might mispronounce, so sorry in advance if I do, let me know. It's Dahlonega, Georgia, and this town has a super cute, quaint, old school like downtown area, and then a ton of wineries nearby. I bet you didn't know that Georgia had wine. Maybe you did. But it would be a really cool option for if you just want to have like a little bit of a wine escape. And the last day trip you might want to consider, especially if you're a college football, basketball fan, that sort of thing, is a trip to Athens, Georgia, which is the home of UGA. It is just the coolest college town, and certainly would be a really great place to visit if you are looking for like that college town vibe. All right, and that wraps up my 4 tips for what to do when you visit Atlanta. If I've missed anything, please feel free to add it in the comment section down below. We love learning from each other on this channel and in this community. If you guys like this video, as always, please press that like button down below. It helps me out a lot. And press that red subscribe button if you haven't, so you don't miss any of the travel vlogs, travel tips, and travel videos that I have on this channel and to come. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers, happy travels, and enjoy Atlanta. Bye! Hey travelers, don't forget to subscribe, and let's hang out more. Here are some links to other helpful travel videos on my channel, and press that notification bell so you don't miss any new and awesome travel videos to come.